The Oil Mirage. In a busy Lagos street, the sun beats down mercilessly. Hundreds of people crowd around a fuel station. The line of cars stretches beyond the eye can see. The grumbling of impatient drivers mixes with the cries of street vendors selling snacks and water. While at the Minister of Petroleum's residence, in his luxurious living room, the room screams opulence, gold trimmings, a giant chandelier, and plush furniture. The petroleum minister, late 70s, regal in his agbada, paces the room with a phone pressed to his ear. Mrs. Petroleum Minister, 60s, sits elegantly by the window, watching the chaos outside with a mix of frustration and concern. The Petroleum Minister for States speaks into the phone. It's all under control. No, the people will adjust. They always do. He hangs up and sighs deeply. Mrs. Petroleum Minister clears her throat. Mrs. Petroleum Minister speaks to her husband. Sincerely, how much longer can we keep this up? They're suffering out there. The Petroleum Minister looks away, avoiding her gaze. Petroleum Minister says, "You don't understand, dear. It's not that simple." MRS Petroleum Minister questions, "How is it not simple? We promised to serve them, to care for them. Instead, you're letting them drown in this deception." He shakes his head, a flicker of guilt in his eyes. Later that day in the newsroom, Mr. Shaw, a TV journalist, a man in his 30s with a confident aura, adjusts his microphone and stares at the camera with intensity. Our beloved country is blessed with Bonny Light crude, one of the most prized in the world, and yet Nigerians pay more than ever for petrol. Why? He leans in, speaking with conviction. The TV journalist continued today, will delve into what 1 barrel of our precious crude actually yields. Let's break it down, shall we? Let's watch as a digital representation of a barrel of Bonny Light crude splits open, revealing various products. Gasoline, PMS, 12.5 gallons, 47.3 liters. Diesel, 9.5 gallons, E36 liters. Jet fuel, kerosene, 3.5 gallons, 13.2 liters. Fuel oil, 6.0 gallons, 22.7 liters. Petrochemicals, 2.5 gallons, 9.5 liters. Other products, e.g. asphalt, lubricants, 1.5 gallons, 5.7 liters. TV journalist added, "Here's the real question. Could we be selling petrol for next to nothing? Could it be that someone's pocketing the difference while we suffer?" Shaw went to the streets again, on the streets at the newspaper stands. A crowd gathers around the newsstand, listening intently. Among them is OLU, a middle-aged man, drenched in sweat, clearly frustrated. OLU stated to no one in particular, "If this Abiola fellow could make sense of it years ago, why can't our leaders do the same now?" Shaw the journalist remembers the video footage he had watched in their newsroom when he joined the television station he works with. It's an interview when late Chief MKO Abiola, charismatic and full of life, stands at a podium, surrounded by journalists, and was asked, "Would you ever increase the price of petrol if you became president?" Abiola chuckles, shaking his head. Cheerfully, Abiola questioned, "Increase what?" "You know I'm a chartered accountant, right? Anyone who suggests increasing fuel prices to me, I'd first ask, how much does it truly cost to produce 1 liter? He holds up his fingers, counting. Abiola continue. "After all the byproducts we gain from refining, the cost of that 1 liter? Almost nothing." The audience erupts in laughter, and Abiola winks at the journalist. Camera captures the Minister of Petroleum's residence. The minister is watching the old Abiola clip on his phone, clearly uncomfortable. His wife enters, arms crossed, glaring at him. "You see? Even decades ago, the truth was evident. Why are we so determined to bury it?" Petroleum Minister sighs. "There are powers at play, bigger than you and me," Mrs. Petroleum Minister softly pleading. "But you have a choice. Don't you want to be remembered as a leader who stood by his people?" The Petroleum Minister stares at her, torn. Camera goes outside into Lagos streets in the night and captures a group of young activists, including Olu, huddle around a bonfire. They're holding placards with messages like, "Enough is enough" and "Fuel for the people." Oulu addressing the group, "Tomorrow we can't be silent anymore. We must demand answers. No more lies, no more suffering." The crowd cheers, raising their placards high. Mr. Shaw, now in the newsroom anchoring the 10 p.m. news, he delivers his closing remarks, where he stated, "Fellow Nigerians, the answers are out there. It's time we demanded the truth from those who promised to serve us." The next day, camera focuses on Minister of Petroleum's residence. He stands at his balcony, staring down at the growing crowd of protesters. Their chants fill the air. He grips the railing tightly, his face twisted with turmoil. Mrs. Petroleum Minister steps beside him, gently placing her hand on his arm. Mrs. Petroleum Minister hushed. "The people are calling for you, my love. Don't let their cries fall on deaf ears." Tears well up in the minister's eyes as he looks out at the sea of faces, hope and desperation mingling in every voice. Petroleum Minister with barely a whisper. "What if it's too late?" Mrs. Petroleum Minister encourages him. "It's never too late to do the right thing.